Hello, good evening, students. How are you? Hope all of you are doing well. So today we are going to start a new chapter that is basically tissue. After cell we have to cover the next topic that is tissue. If we talk about the nucleic acid, we'll discuss it when we are going to start the chapter of genetics. Fine. So we'll discuss nucleic acid inside the chapter genetics. So today we are going to discuss about tissue. First of all, what are tissues? We have cell. When these cells aggregate, means they join or stick together and they'll start doing some kind of different function. Such type of organization we term them as tissue. So it is the group of cell performing a similar function. So basically, the group of cells which perform similar function are said to be as the tissue. So this is cell, this is tissue. After tissue, these tissue arrange themselves to form a organ, and these organ will form a system, that is organ system. Like we have different type of system: digestive system, circulatory system, respiratory system, nervous system in our body. And when the organ system is formed, this will comprise a whole new organism. Right? So first of all, we have cell. These cell aggregate and form tissues. These tissues start to form a different type of organization known as organ. These organ will form a system known as organ system, and when the organ system is made up, then a whole new organism is formed. So tissues are generally of, in living world, tissues are generally of two different types. We have plant tissue, which will be discussed in plants. Right now we have to discuss about the animal tissue in detail. So plant tissues are of generally two types. One is dividing tissue, which have the ability of cell division. Another is non-dividing tissue, which lost the ability of cell division. These dividing tissues are said to be as meristematic tissues, because in Greek division means meristos. So meristematic tissue, that's why the name is given. Or because they are the cells which have ability of division for a certain period of time, that's why we call them as temporary tissue. But when these cells lost their ability of cell division, they'll get converted into non-dividing tissues, and these non-dividing tissues are known as permanent tissue. So permanent tissues don't have the ability of division. Now further, these meristematic and permanent tissues are further divided into different classes, but right now our chapter basically belongs to the animal tissue. So the tissues which are found in animals are of four different types, that is epithelial tissue, then we have muscular tissue, we have connective tissue, and we have nervous tissue. So for today we are going to discuss these different types of animal tissue. So is there any problem in that, in the introduction of tissue? So is there any problem? So let's start with the animal tissue. So as we have already discussed, animal tissues are of generally four different types. Number one, epithelial tissues. Number two, connective tissues. Number three, muscular tissue. And number four, nervous tissue. We'll start from nervous tissue. Then we'll go for muscular, then we'll go for connective. And in the last, we'll discuss about the epithelial tissue. So basically, nervous tissues. Nervous tissues are basically divided into two different types of cells. One is the nerve fibers, and these nerve fibers are also said to be as neuron, and another cells of nervous tissues are neuroglial cells. So we have to discuss them one by one. Okay, first we have to discuss about the neuron. After that, we have to discuss different types of neuroglial cells. Nervous cells, nerve fiber or nerve cell or neurons are the cells which are performing the function of control and coordination in our body. Means these are the cells which are controlling the whole body, which is present in our brain and spinal cord, as well as these are the cells which are making coordination with the different organs of our body. Means our body is connected with heart, our body have a connection, or we can say that our brain is connected with heart, our brain have a connection with kidney, our brain has connection with our gut, our brain has connection with different organs in our body, as well as the spinal cord have connection with the different organ in our body. So these cells are found in our brain as well as in our spinal cord, and these cells controls our body and make a coordination between the body. So these are the functions of neuron. Now, if we talk about the neuroglial cells, these are the supporting cells that helps neuron. How they helps neuron, we'll discuss them later. First of all, we'll have to study about the neuron. So if we see the structure of neuron or nerve cell, first of all, these are the structural and functional unit of nervous system. So our whole nervous system is made up of neuron, and the cells which are performing functions in our nervous system is said to be as neuron. Second thing, these are the cells which never divides, because these are the cells which lacks centrosome or centriole. So in our class of cell or the fundamental unit of life, that is cell, we have discussed a cell organelle, that is centrosome. These centrosome helps in the cell division. These centrosomes are basically absent in neurons, and due to the absence of these cellular organelle, these cells will never divide. So these cells have least regenerative capability. They do not divide, but they heal themselves at a very slow rate. That's why we are not able to tell you that when this patient will come out of the coma. Maybe it will take 7 months, maybe it takes 7 years, maybe it take 15 or 17 years. So nobody knows about it, because these are the cell which never divide, but these have least regenerative capacity or capability. Plus, as well as these are the longest cell in living world. If we see the living world, in all living organism, these cells are the longest. They are up to 1 meter long. So these are the longest cell in whole animal kingdom as well as in living world. Fine. So what we have studied about neuron, we have studied about the general facts about the neuron. First of all, these are a structural and functional unit of nervous system. Second thing is, these are the cells which never divides because they lack centriole. Third thing is, these are the cell with least regenerative capability. And fourth thing is, these are the longest cell in animal kingdom as well as in overall living world. These are the longest cell. Now, if we see the structure of neuron, so if we see the structure of neuron, our typical neuron looks like this. So these are the fingers of neuron. These are the hairs of neuron. This is the head of neuron. This is the body of neuron. And this is the tail of neuron. So these hair-like structure in neuron, these are said to be as dendrites, and these dendrites are the first which receives electrical signals from a particular organ, and they transmit this signal through these fingers. Then this signal go inside this head, and from this head this signal will get transferred to the body, and from body it is transferred to the tail, and from tail it gets transferred to the next neuron. So this is the signal transduction pathway of neuron. These finger-like structure are said to be as dendron. This body is said to be as axon. This head is said to be as cytone or soma, and this tail is said to be as synaptic node. So this is the typical structure of a neuron. Now inside the body you will find a cover. This is the cover. Okay. And this cover is said to be as myelin sheath. It protects neuron from external shock. This is node of Ranvier. It helps in signal transduction, and this is the nucleus of this cell, and surrounding the nucleus, inside this, surrounding the nucleus, you will find some fragments of rough endoplasmic reticulum, RER, and these fragments of RER is said to be as Nissl's granule. So this is the typical structure of neuron. Now in our nervous system, many neurons possess these myelin sheath. So such type of neuron with myelin sheath is said to be as myelinated neuron, and many neurons do not have these myelin sheath, and such type of neuron without myelin sheath, such type of neuron are said to be as non-myelinated neuron. So that is the structure of a typical neuron. The hair-like structure is said to be as dendrite. The finger-like structure is said to be as dendron. The bulky part or the head is said to be as cyton or soma. The head contains brain. This is said to be as nucleus. Nucleus is surrounded by the fragment of rough endoplasmic reticulum, which is said to be as Nisl granule. The body or the axon is covered by a sheath which is known as myelin sheath. In our nervous system, many neuron contains myelin sheath. Such type of neuron is known as myelinated neuron, while some neurons or many neurons contain is without myelin sheath. Such type of neuron are said to be as non-myelinated neuron, and the tail is said to be as synaptic knob. So this is the structure of a typical neuron. Is that clear? Is that clear? No. Now there are different types of neuron that we will discuss in the chapter nervous system. Next thing is neuroglial cell. There are various kind of cells that assist neuron in signal transduction. So we have Schwann cell. This is the type of neuroglial cell. We have ependymal cell. We have glial cells, and we have astrocytes, and there are other cells too, but these are four more important cells. So the function of Schwann cells is to the formation of myelin sheath, the sheath which is present around the axon of myelinated neuron. The function of ependymal is to form cerebrospinal fluid This is the fluid which is present in between our spinal cord and in the meninges of brain, and this cerebrospinal fluid, in short it is CSF, it helps in providing, CSF provide nourishment to these organs or these cells, that is neurons. Okay. It also helps in to prevent neuron from mechanical injury or shock. Glial cells are the macrophages, or we can say that these are the WBCs of brain. And what is the function of WBCs? That these WBCs fight with foreign particles like bacteria and virus which enters in brain or spinal cord and tries to destroy our neuron. So these cells just eat those bacteria and viruses. On the other hand, astrocyte, these cells forms a blood brain barrier. Means these cells form some barrier which prevent the entry of blood inside the brain, because if this blood enters inside our brain, the meninges will get filled up with these blood and it may cause inflammation of the brain, resulting in a disease called as meningitis. So these are the neuroglial cells or the supporting cells of our nervous system. These different cell assist neuron for signal transduction or for control and coordination of the body. So this is our first tissue, that is neuroglial cells and neuron or nervous tissue. Second thing is our muscular tissue. So muscular tissues are those tissues which are made up of basically muscle fibers. So we have three different types of muscle fibers, or we have three different types of muscles. One is skeletal muscles, another is striated, oh so not sorry, it's not striated, another is smooth muscle or visceral muscle, and third is cardiac muscle. So if we see the structure of skeletal muscle, it's look like this. So this is our skeletal muscle. If we see the structure of smooth muscle, it look like this. So this is the structure of smooth muscle. If we see the structure of cardiac muscle, it look like this. Mhm. So this is the structure of our cardiac muscles. So these are the structure of different muscle. This is our skeletal muscle, this is our smooth muscle, and that is our cardiac muscle. If we see the structure of skeletal muscle, this is cylindrical in shape. So first point is these are cylindrical cells. Second thing is these are unbranched. These do not shows any branching. So these are unbranched muscle. Third thing is it contain more than one nucleus. So these are multinucleated. Fourth thing is after staining, we'll observe light, dark, light, dark, light bending pattern, and these bending patterns are known as striations. So we call them as striated muscles. Plus, we can voluntarily control them. So we call these muscles as voluntary muscles. These muscles are attached with our bones and can be controlled by our will. So what I'm moving right now and the muscles which are basically attached with our bones or skeletal is said to be as a skeletal muscle, and we are moving them voluntarily or with our will. And these muscles are controlled by cerebrum and cerebellum. These are the parts of our brain or central nervous system. So these are the characteristic of skeletal muscle. If we see the characteristic of smooth muscles, these are spindle in shape. Spindle means these are tapered at the ends, means these are flat at the end and bulky in the center. So these are spindle shaped. Again, they do not show any branching pattern. So these are unbranched. They have only branched single nucleus in the center. So these are uninucleated. Plus, when we have stained them with some kind of dye and observe them under the microscope, we do not show any kind of these lines or light dark pattern of bands. So these are unstriated muscle. We cannot control them, these muscle, with our will. So these are involuntary muscles, and these muscles are controlled by medulla oblongata, which is the most important part of our brain, and by autonomous nervous system. Third thing is these are cardiac muscles. and these muscles are found in internal organs. First of all, the cardiac muscles are looks like skeletal muscle, but skeletal muscles are not branched, while these cardiac muscles are branched. So first of all, these are cylindrical muscle. Second thing, these are branch muscle or branch cell. These cell contain just only single nucleus. This is one cell, this is another cell. So there is one single nucleus. So these are uninucleated. Again, we can see the pattern of light dark bands after coloring or after staining these muscles under the microscope and observe them under the microscope. So these are again striated muscles, but these are striated uninucleated muscles. These are the striated multinucleated muscles. Plus, we cannot control them with our will. So these are again involuntary muscles. And these muscles only and only found in our heart. So these are different types of muscle. Now the function of skeletal muscle is movement. It helps in movement and locomotion of body. The function of smooth muscle is peristalsis, which is the repetitive contraction and relaxation of organ to perform some function, and the function of cardiac muscle is pumping of heart. So these are the cardiac tissues. So we have three different type muscular tissues. So we have three different types of muscular tissues. One is skeletal, another is smooth or visceral, and the third is cardiac. Is that clear? Is that clear? Next thing is third type, connective tissue. First of all, connective tissue is the most abundant tissue in our body. If somebody is asked you which tissue is the most abundant tissue, answer is connective tissue. Second thing is it helps in linking tissue and organs. So basically it makes connection, or it helps in maintaining the links between the two different tissue or two same type of tissue and organs of our body. So connective tissue have some special feature. It is made up of three different components. One is cells, another is fibers, and third is matrix. So cells, there are various type of cells like fibroblast, like mast cell, like reticulocytes, like neutrophils, like basophils, etc. in the cells of connective tissue. Talking about the fiber, we have three different types of fiber. One is for strength, and this fiber is collagen, which is white in color. Another is for elasticity, and this fiber is known as elastin, which is yellow in color. And third is the mixture of both, okay, which provide a network, that is reticulin. Reticulin means, reticulars means network. It is mixture of collagen more plus less elastin. So these are the three different types of fiber. Fine. And matrix are made up of, or matrix or ground tissue is made up of polysaccharide, that is carbohydrates, or we can call them as mucopolysaccharide, because they also release a little bit amount of mucus. So these are the things of which a connective tissue made up of. Connective tissue, in short, I'll write them as CT, are of further three different things. One is loose connective tissue, another is dense connective tissue, and specialized connective tissue. Loose connective tissue means more matrix, less fiber. Dense connective tissue means more fiber, less matrix. A specialized connective tissue are of further different types. One is in the form of solid, another is in the form of liquid. In solid we have skeletal. In skeletal we have bones and cartilage. And in liquid we have, or in fluid we have blood and lymph. So these are the classification of connective tissue. Now we have to discuss bones and we will discuss bones and cartilage in the chapter of skeletal system. Fine. We will discuss blood and lymph in the chapter of circulatory system. Right now over here we are going to discuss loose and dense connective tissue. So connective tissue, we are not going to discuss any specialized connective tissue over here. Loose connective tissue, dense connective tissue. Loose connective tissue, we have two different examples for them. One is areolar and another is adipose. This areolar connective tissue works as a cementing material, and it fills up space between organ and inside organ. So in between organ and inside the organ, it helps in filling up the cavities or the empty spaces. So this areolar connective tissue, in all connective tissue, it is the most abundant connective tissue. While these adipose tissues, these contains fat storing cell in them, and they helps in formation of various vitamin, as well as they also helps in shock absorb. So they contain fat storing cell, and these fat storing cells are said to be as adipocytes, and these adipocytes helps in formation of various vitamin, and these vitamin are basically A, D, E, K, that is fat soluble vitamin, and they help our body in to prevent us from mechanical shock. If we talk about the dense connective tissues, we have two different types. Dense connective tissue, one have regular, in which the fiber are arranged regularly. One is irregular, in which fibers are arranged irregularly. So we have two different type of regular connective tissue. One is tendon, another is ligament. Tendons are basically made up of collagen, and they helps in joining bone to muscle, while ligament are made up of elastin, and they helps in joining bone to bone. So tendons connect bone to muscles, while ligaments connect bone to bone. Now, if we talk about the irregular connective tissues, in these type of tissue, the fibers like collagen and elastins are irregularly arranged, and these irregular connective tissues are generally forms upper covering of various organs. So irregular connective tissues example, like these can form the covering over heart, it is known as pericardium. These can form the covering over kidney, it is known as peritoneum. These can form the covering over bones, these are known as periosteum. These can form the covering over cartilage, these are known as perichondrium, etc., etc. So it is covering over heart, covering over kidney, covering over bone, covering over cartilage. So these are the irregular connective tissues, dense connective tissues. Is that clear? So what we have discussed today, that tissues are the group of cells performing a similar function. First of all, there is a cell. These cells combine to form a tissue, and these tissue organize themselves into an organ. These organs form a system known as organ system, and finally an organism is made. The tissues is divided into two different classes. One is plant tissue, another is animal tissue. Plant tissues are further of two types. One is dividing tissue, which have the ability of cell division. These type of tissue are known as meristematic tissue, and this ability of cell division is for short interval of time. That's why we call them as temporary tissue. Non-dividing tissue, when these temporary tissues lost the ability of cell division, we call them non-dividing tissue or permanent tissue. Next thing is animal tissues. We'll discuss these plant tissue in further detail in plant tissue chapter. Today we are going to study about the animal tissue. Animal tissue are of 4 different types: epithelial, muscular, connective, nervous. First of all, we are going to discuss about nervous tissues. Nervous tissues are made up of 2 type of cell. One is the main cell, which helps in control and coordination of our whole body. These are nerve fiber or neuron. Another are the supporting cell for neuron. These are neuroglial cell. So neurons are the structural and functional unit of nervous system. These are the cell which never divide because they lack centriole. That's why they do not have the ability of cell division and they have least regenerative capacity. And these are the longest cell in living world. If we see the structure of neuron, it looks like this. It have hair-like structure, dendrite, finger-like structure, dendron, then a head which is said to be a cytone or soma, a body which is said to be as axon. This body is covered with myelin sheath if the neuron is myelinated and absent if the neuron is non-myelinated. Inside the head, we have a nucleus which acts as a brain of the cell, and surrounding this brain, we have fragment of rough endoplasmic reticulum, that is Nestle granule. The tail is known as synaptic knob. And from here on, another neuron will start. So there a gap will come, and the gap between two neuron, the gap between two neuron is known as synapse. Now there are other types of neuron too, but we will discuss them in the chapter nervous system. Neuroglial cells, there are different types of neuroglial cells. These cells supports neuron in performing in their function. The Schwann cell which form the myelin sheath, and myelin sheath protect neuron from mechanical shock. The edendymal cell, this forms CSF, and this CSF is a liquid which is filled in our brain and spinal cord, and this CSF provide nourishment to our brain and spinal cord as well as to these neuron. Also helps in preventing neuron from mechanical shock. Glial cell, these are the macrophages or WBCs of brain and spinal cord, and these glial cell will eat any type of virus or bacteria that try to invade these system. Astrocyte, these forms a blood-brain barrier due to which these blood do not enter directly inside the brain, because if the blood enter inside the brain, it fill the cavities in brain, resulting in the inflammation or swelling of brain, and this condition will known as meningitis. Second is muscular tissue. We have 3 different types of muscular tissue: skeletal, which helps in movement and locomotion; smooth or visceral, which helps in peristalsis. What is peristalsis? It is rhythmic contraction and relaxation of muscle due to which any organ will work. And cardiac muscle, that helps in the pumping of heart. It is cylindrical in nature, unbranched, multinucleated, striated. Voluntary striated means will show band pattern, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, like this. These are voluntary muscles, can be controlled with our will. These muscles are attached with our bones and controlled by cerebrum and cerebrum. While these muscles are spindle shaped, not spindle. Spindle. Spindle means flat from the ends and swollen from the center. Unbranched, uninucleated, do not show any light band pattern. Unstriated, involuntary, cannot be controlled by our will. It can be controlled by medulla oblongata, which is the most important part of our brain, and by autonomous nervous system, that is the hormonal system which control our nervous system. It is found in our internal organ. While cardiac muscle are cylindrical, branched, uninucleated, striated, involuntary muscles, and only found in our heart, and the function is pumping of heart. Is that clear? Next thing is we have discussed connective tissue, which is the most abundant tissue and helps in linking tissue and organ. Connective tissue contain three basic things. Cells like fibroblast, mast cell, reticulocyte, neutrophil, basophil, etc. Fibers like strength is provided by collagen, which is white in color. Elasticity in these tissues is provided by elastin, which is yellow in color, while another fiber which helps in maintaining the network is known as reticulin, and reticulin is made up of more collagen, less elastin. And matrix, which is made up of polysaccharide, or we call these polysaccharide as mucopolysaccharide. Now, connective tissues are further divided into loose connective tissue, dense connective tissue, and specialized connective tissue. Loose connective tissue contain more matrix, less fiber. Dense connective tissue contain more fiber, less matrix. Specialized connective tissue are of two different types. One is solid, another is liquid. Solid specialized connective tissues are skeletal tissues, which are basically bones and cartilages, while liquid specialized connective tissues are blood and lymph. We have separate chapters for bones, cartilage, blood and lymph. So we are going to discuss these tissue in the particular chapter. Here we have discussed about loose connective tissue, dense connective tissue. Loose connective tissues are of two types. One is areola, another is adipose. Areola connective tissue works as a cementing material. It fills up the spaces between the organ and inside the organ and is the most abundant type of connective tissue in our body. Adipose tissues are the fat storing cells. It also helps in the formation of various vitamin like fat soluble vitamin like ADEK, and it also helps in preventing our body from mechanical shock. While we talk about the dense connective tissue, these are of two different types, regular, irregular. Regular connective tissue, in these fibers are regularly arranged, while irregular connective tissue fibers are not irregularly arranged. Regular connective tissue are of further two different types, tendon and ligament. Tendons are made up of collagen fiber and ligaments are made up of elastin fibers. So tendon connect bone to muscle while ligament connects bone to bone. Irregular connective tissue, these forms the upper covering of various organs like pericardium, peritoneum, periosteum, perichondrium. ठीक है, pericardium are the covering of heart, peritoneum are the covering of kidney, peristeum are the covering of bone, and perichondrium are the covering of cartilages. So we have discussed three different animal tissue. Tomorrow we are going to discuss the last epithelial tissue, and this chapter will get over by tomorrow. So we'll see you in next class. Hope you like the class. So try to share this classes, as Careerville is providing you the free classes for GS. So try to share this classes as much as possible with your friends and those who are in need. Fine. So have a good day. Take care. Thank you. दूसरी क्लास कहाँ से? यहाँ से, वहीं से कर दूं?